40% of all companies in Germany say that they will be forced to cut jobs next year. The mood in the German economy continues to deteriorate, say German media. The IFO Institute's Business Climate Index has fallen again to its lowest level in many, many years. Consumer sentiment in Germany is cratering at the same time. German industry wants to cut thousands of jobs and abolish job guarantees. The upheavals represent an opportunity for companies and employees to really assess what's going on here. And that is massive bankruptcies. German economists are saying that bankruptcies have hit a record high this year, but they are only about to get worse. 2025 will annihilate numbers from this year. The CEO of Mercedes-Benz is blaming, in large part, German workers, saying they call in sick all the time, they're uncompetitive, and they are no longer innovating like their rivals. It comes as little surprise when you tell people that labor costs in Germany are the highest in Europe. This year, bankruptcies of German companies have hit their highest number in more than a decade. The German media are reporting this information. They're, well, to be honest, very concerned about enormous job losses as the automotive industry shrinks, as it has to consolidate losses in China, and as rivals take market share from these companies. The fear here, the fear across all of Germany right now is that their economy is in for a pretty disastrous time over the next coming years. Here are the details coming from the German media. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. It's been reported by numerous sources in the German media over the past few days. The Volkswagen Group believes it needs to cut staff, close 3 factories, that Porsche apparently needs to fire 10,000 staff. This is coming from reputed, well-known media organizations. And Mercedes-Benz apparently needs to fire 16,600. This crisis of confidence in these companies as a result of declining sales in not only in China, but even in other places as well. And the problem here is that there's really no solution to this. If anything, it's trending just constantly in the wrong direction. Spiegel.de reports that the German economy is weakening. The costs for energy, materials, and wages have risen sharply, according to a study. The current economic crisis will cause more company bankruptcies in Germany in 2024 than at any time over the past decade. Specifically, the number of insolvencies is likely to have increased by 24% to 22,400, according to calculations now published by the credit agency Credit Reform. The last time there was a higher number than this was back in the financial crisis days, back in the time of the GM bankruptcy days. After some delay, the crises of recent years are now having an impact on companies as bankruptcies, said Patrick Ludwig Hansch, head of the Credit Reform Economic Research Industry. The economic standstill and the declining innovative strength have weakened Germany as a business location. It's true. I think a lot of people are seeing what Tesla has faced in Germany. The incredible difficulties they've faced. The protests, the professional paid protesters trying to prevent Tesla from doing anything, from opening a factory, from doing anything there. Basically cutting the power off to that factory. We're talking cutting power lines, trying to set the factory on fire. And then all the bureaucracy in Germany. Then the high labor costs. Why would you want, and I've said this on many occasions, why in your right mind would you want to do business there? It doesn't make sense. In addition to that, the high cost of energy, the high cost of so many things in Germany means that even if you do want to do business there, it just is not economically viable. Unfortunately, the truth is, as Spiegel said, German companies are not innovating like they used to. The Volkswagen Group spent billions of dollars trying to fix its software problems with its own in-house software company. Didn't work. It was a disaster. The company is still dealing with the ramifications of the software disaster in the US. Look at the declining sales of the Volkswagen ID4 in the US. EV sales in the US from Volkswagen have collapsed. Literally. What happened? The Volkswagen Group ended up buying for $2.5 billion a software company in China who have fixed most of those problems. During the coronavirus crisis, There was a decline in bankruptcies and the government suspended the obligation to file for bankruptcy. In the meantime, many companies that had survived the pandemic have had to file for bankruptcy. There was a lot of stimulus coming from the German government, and that stimulus now is at an end. And so these companies, well, they're at their end as well. A further increase is expected in bankruptcies in the coming year. It's only going to get worse, say credit agencies. This could soon mean that insolvency figures could once again approach the peaks of 2009 and 2010 when over 32,000 companies went bankrupt. According to the analysis, the majority of bankruptcies in the year that is coming to an end affected micro enterprises with a maximum of 10 employees the most. These accounted for 81.4% of all cases. But some of the bigger companies now are feeling the pressure. What is striking is the above average increase in larger companies with more than 250 employees. Here, the number of cases has risen by 44.4%. Although their share of the volume of insolvency, of course, remains small because there's not that many of them, the consequences of these large-scale insolvencies are huge. High levels of bad debts and job losses, said Credit Reform Managing Director Bernd Bittau. And now that we have these major German employers, these German automotive companies, now that they are being forced to reduce headcount in Germany, or at the very least, decrease salaries, it looks like there's really no way out of this situation. The increase in so-called chain insolvencies is particularly worrying. The ongoing crisis of recent years, from corona to inflation, have drained numerous companies, and these companies are kind of like seeing there being no way out. The analysis also shows a significant increase in creditor losses. The estimated damages amount to 56 billion euros. That's about 65 billion US dollars compared to 31 billion last year. So companies, creditors, banks have lost incredible amounts of money. In this situation, when the Volkswagen Group or whoever it may be comes to you and says, guys, we need another loan. We've got more debt than any company in the world. We've got $240 billion in debt. We need another loan. And you've just lost 56 billion euros in a single year to all these other companies that have gone bankrupt. Would you be keen to give the Volkswagen Group a low interest loan? I say probably not. Major bankruptcies such as those of Galeria, Karstadt, Kaufhof, and FTI Touristik have contributed to this. Insolvencies increased in all sectors of the German economy. According to the information, the service sector was particularly affected with an increase of 27.1%, followed by the manufacturing sector with 24%. The manufacturing sector is going to be destroyed in Germany over the next 10 years. Now, not completely, but largely because, really, think about it. For every one job loss, direct automotive industry jobs, a further 10 people are affected. It's 1 to 10. So if you employ one person, say at Mercedes or Volkswagen, you employ one, you're actually employing the equivalent of 10 people. But they're external, of course, for part suppliers, etc. Now, the reverse will happen. Once they fire tens of thousands in Germany, which they're obviously going to do, there's no choice in the matter, hundreds of thousands of automotive industry jobs will be lost. The highest insolvency rate, measured in terms of insolvencies per 10,000 companies, was surprisingly in the construction industry, with a total of 97. The number of consumer bankruptcies also rose in 2024, said Credit Reform. A total of 72,000 new cases were registered, an increase of 8.5%. So, what are the main reasons for this? And we're going to see a lot more of these as well, unfortunately. I do feel sorry for these people that are going to lose their jobs. It's going to happen. The main reasons for this are the sharp rise in the cost of living and higher loan interest rates, which are placing a considerable burden on consumers. The situation is also being exacerbated by the increasing reduction in well-paid jobs. Why will it get worse for Germany? It's going to get worse for Germany for another key reason that I think people aren't realizing. China is going after everyone Germany sells things to. For example, because of all these tariffs on Chinese products going to the United States, China is trying to divest itself from the US. That's its strategy. China has very publicly revealed its strategy is to attempt to, when the US basically bans everything coming from China, for it to not hurt China much. back in 2004, about 8.5% of China's GDP was selling stuff to America, right? That's what, 8.5%. It's now fallen to 2.3%. It's fallen by a staggering 400%. And China plans on continuing this strategy. So China is basically selling all their stuff at a record pace to suppliers that would have, places where people would have bought things from Germany. Here's the key point as well. It's like a Trojan horse. Look at companies like Bosch, right? Bosch is a German company. There's many others. ZF, they make transmissions, 8-speed transmissions. Now, you don't need those for EVs, do you? But getting back to Bosch, there's many other German manufacturers who have outsourced to China. The majority of their stuff now is being made in China, right? And these German companies who are making everything in China, they're selling stuff to companies that used to, right? Companies that used to buy things from Germany. So all this manufacturing sector is being really targeted by China. And China is like, this is their strategy, right? If they've got to sell at a loss to take market share, they'll do it. Basically, you call China and you say, guys, I'm getting something from Germany. I've been buying this part from Germany. It cost me this much. The Chinese will say, no problem. We'll sell it to you for half the price. We're going to make a loss until we make sure you're our customer, and then we've got you. And that's their strategy. You can't really compete with that. You can't really compete with the might of China. You also can't compete with their energy costs. Their energy costs are much lower than in Germany. China is building out insane amounts of cheap renewable energy. Insane amounts. They're building the equivalent of 5 nuclear power plants every week in renewables, in solar and wind. And that is cheap. It's cheaper than fossil fuels. It's cheaper than energy in Germany. That's another advantage. What about labor? Labor costs are much cheaper. The average wage in China in the manufacturing sector is about $20,000. In Germany, it's over $100,000. So Germany is going to be hit from every which angle. We're going to be seeing individuals declaring bankruptcy, which is sad, and I hate to see this, but it's going to happen because of all the job losses in the automotive industry, and it's going to have a carry-on effect. We're going to see massive losses in the other industries, like services sectors where people go on holidays. You know, they spend money, excess money. People will be doing, when the economy is doing really well, what happens? People spend money on holidays. They spend money on going to eat at restaurants. They spend money on tourism. That will decline significantly over the next few years. What are your thoughts? Let me know how you think this is all going to play out in the comments. Keep in mind, the automotive industry is enormously important for Germany. It's their number one employer. The rise of China is now exporting way more cars than Germany. It's not even close anymore. And China's car exports are growing at the fastest pace in the history of the country.